Hello, and welcome to Feed Your Fire. I'm Kim Baker, founder of Kim Baker Foods. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the importance of feeling grounded, having a sense of steadiness beneath our feet, or a place to go when things get a little bit tilted. And we're going to do that as we nourish our bodies with a New York style, everything but the bagel breakfast platter, inspired by my roots, but very much an adaptation, symbolizing how we can find comfort in the past while we redefine what it means to come home. Anyone send their kids off to college for the first time? Right now, there's a whole generation of young individuals and their families that are reconciling what it means to call home. And even though that's an exciting new chapter, it brings about a certain level of disruption. Positive events can be disruptive. In fact, have you ever gone on a bunch of trips back to back? They might have been amazing, but oftentimes they leave you with a sense of exhaustion. And when you get back, all you want to do is have a day home to just be and do nothing. So, what is it then that gives us that sense of grounding? And how can we create it if that place doesn't exist or no longer exists? For me, that comes from a sense of peace and a sense of belonging. Without them, I feel like my feet are kind of dangling on the edge of something unfamiliar. And if I'm not anchored by a place, I need to be anchored by people. I've lived in Richmond for nearly 25 years, and for most of that time, I couldn't have called it my home. Now, don't get me wrong, Richmond's a fabulous city, but it didn't give to me that sense of security. When I first got divorced, I was so isolated, and I relied on my family 400 miles away to give me that sense of grounding. It was like they were my Winnebago, and it was a traveling home that could meet me where I was. And even though I've now lived in Richmond more years than I lived in New York, there's still a part of me that connects with that city. That's not because of a location on a map. It's because of the people. So as we explore what it means to come home, I thought I would make for you this New York-inspired everything but the bagel breakfast platter that I know you're going to love. Now, the last time I was in New York, my boyfriend and I took a walk in the morning over to a place called Russ and Daughters. And if you're unfamiliar with that place, it's this long-standing New York tradition. The line is often out the door where you can get some of the best smoked salmon type of breakfast sandwiches you've ever had. Mind you also that they are about $25 a pop, but that hasn't kept me from craving them. So today we're going to make a recipe inspired by that trip to New York where we had those amazing sandwiches. Now, I'm not using smoked salmon in this recipe. I'm actually using fresh wild salmon that I'm going to rub with a pastrami-inspired seasoning mix. I'm going to take some whole peppercorns, mustard seeds, and coriander seeds, and I'm going to grind them up in a spice grinder just for a second, and then I'm going to combine it with some smoked paprika, some garlic powder, some onion powder, and some brown sugar. I'm going to rub that all over the salmon and drizzle it with some avocado oil. And then I'm going to season it generously with salt. Now I'm taking this delicious piece of fish and I'm throwing it on the grill. Wild salmon tends to be thinner than when you get farm-raised salmon, so it will cook up pretty quick. While that's cooking, I'm going to make some everything but the bagel seasoned tater tots. You heard me. tater tots. They're kind of reminiscent of a potato latke, but they're a whole lot quicker, and there's something nostalgic about them that I really like for this recipe. So take your tots and put them in an air fryer. Let them crisp up for about 10 to 15 minutes. When they come out of the air fryer, we're just going to lightly spray them with an oil so that the everything but the bagel seasoning sticks to them. And then give that seasoning mix a good shake. Your salmon will be done before your potatoes, but we're going to let the salmon rest for a minute. So don't worry about the timing. Now we're going to prepare all the accoutrements. So slice up some cucumbers. I'm using some mini baby cucumbers. These are sometimes called Persian cucumbers. I like them. I think they have a great crunch and flavor. So slice them up thin, put them in a bowl, add a squeeze of lemon juice, a little bit of olive oil, some salt, and some fresh dill. Now we're going to dice some tomato and chop up some scallions and set them aside. By now, your salmon should be ready. So grab it from the grill and put it on a platter. I want you to squeeze a little bit of lemon juice on top and add some fresh dill. Then take that cucumber salad and put it on the platter beside the salmon. Add those tomatoes and scallions and a handful of rinsed capers. When those tater tots are done, they're going on the platter too. Then we're going to sprinkle everything but the bagel seasoning mix on top of the entire platter. And we're going to put some sour cream in a ramekin. This is a very important part of this dish. It gives it that kind of cream cheesy taste. While it's certainly not required, it is highly recommended that you eat everything on this platter kind of mixed together. If you're one of those people that like to compartmentalize and have your salmon and then your cucumber and then your tater tot, I realize that this is going to create a lot of anxiety for you, but I promise you it is best enjoyed mixed together. So give it a try. It's kind of what makes it reminiscent of a sandwich, even though it's on a plate. Now, this recipe is intentionally a shared platter because it's in community that we find belonging. I was lucky enough to be raised in a family where I felt that sense of belonging from the get-go. But now that my family's changed, I've really had to understand how to create that community. I remember when my parents passed away, feeling this sense of displacement. There was no longer a home base. It literally did not exist anymore. But that didn't mean that it couldn't exist. So if you're finding yourself in a similar place where maybe positive or negative disruptions have unearthed your grounding, you can create a new sense of home. And it doesn't matter what those four walls look like that surround you. In fact, sometimes we need to break down those walls to allow someone in. In just a few years, my son will be an adult and I can go anywhere that I want. And so I've pondered this question quite a bit. Given no constraints, how would I define home? It's a really big question. I love that the recipe in this podcast was inspired by that moment I shared with my boyfriend in New York. It illustrates how our present and our past can come together and be intertwined. Maybe my home is still that Winnebago. It just has a fresh coat of paint on it, and I'm traveling a new set of roads. And maybe it could still provide me with the peace and belonging that's always grounded me, so long as I keep the spirit of the ones I love close and open its doors to new passengers. Until our next episode, I say so long. Feed your fire, where food nourishes growth. Feature Fire is sponsored by Pro-Chi Plant Energy. Visit prochiplantenergy.com and fill up with intention. That's PROCHI plantenergy.com.